Hey guys, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here with a knife video for you. Today we are looking at the Cold Steel Talwar. This is the re-released version. You'll recall when GSM took over Cold Steel, they did this survey to try and garner some favor from the fans, effective or not. I guess that remains to be seen. But they asked what models of Cold Steel that have been discontinued would you like to see put back into production? And this was one of the winners. A bunch of people responded, myself included. And in fact, this was one of the knives that I asked for because I had never yet tried one and kind of wanted to. By the way, it's not quite fitting all in frame, but this is the best we can do. Anyway, so I myself said, yeah, I'd like to see the large Talwar come back. There's also an XL that's even larger and a standard size, like with a 4-inch blade that's smaller. By the way, I've reviewed the smaller one, and it's a great knife. Very, very practical. I know this looks pretty dramatic and has this crazy Persian shape. But especially, this one is a little, pushes the boundaries of practical for sure. But the previous version, the 4-inch version, is really, really good. It's a fantastic EDC knife, and I found a comfortable handle, great blade shape for getting a lot of different cutting tasks done. So I wanted to kind of throw that out there. This one is, of course, the large version. So it's substantial, guys. Look at the blade on this. We're talking about like 5 3/4 inches approximately. Overall, it's like 13 inches long. The handle itself is going to land around 7 3/8 or so. You can't quite see the end of the ruler there, but this is a substantial knife. It's not crazy heavy. It kind of, it's compared to say the Formax, it's actually a little bit lighter than that. So that's nice to see. But again, if you're looking at this knife, you're not all that concerned about weight. I mean, if you're seriously considering buying one, that is. We're going to leave that one as kind of besides the point. Let's get to the knife itself with a little more detailed discussion here. So starting with this S35 VN flat ground blade, I believe the original version, or I guess not the original version, that's not accurate, but the most recently produced version before this re-release was in CTS XHP, which is a phenomenal, phenomenal steel. And I'm really, really sad that Cold Steel is not using that anymore. This is S35 VN, which is a fine steel, bit of a downgrade as far as I'm concerned. That said, this has performed so well for me that I almost feel bad complaining, because the grind on this and the blade shape is so useful. It is a bit of a fingerprint magnet. I'll apologize for that. Every time I give you guys a kind of a close-up like that, you're going to see my fingerprints all over it. Anyway, very, very practical blade shape. Obviously, there is a design element that involves sort of slashing type movements, which may have a defensive role, but also and again, my emphasis here is to argue that this is way more practical than people give it credit for. I think some people look at this and go, yeah, this is a big, dangerous, scary weapon, and that's why I want it because, okay, I don't, I don't know what that says about your personality. I'll leave that up to you. But I think there's a larger contingent who see this knife and go, that's just stupid. And it's more those people that I kind of want to speak to in this video, because the size and construction of this knife make this suitable for some roles that you would never think. Like, you can almost treat this, if you kind of choke down here, and I have tried this out in the forest, this will work as a machete, almost doing some light work of that nature. If you just got a little bit of stuff to clear to make a shelter or something. So as a survival, as an outdoor utility blade, I think this is really, really good. The other thing is, in a hiking, camping, outdoor camp knife scenario, if you're the kind of guy, and I do this sometimes, me and the kids will throw everything in a backpack, head out to the forest, even if it's just for an afternoon, and we'll have a couple of meals out there. This is almost a perfect companion for that, because it folds, so I can fold it up, throw it in the backpack. But then when I get there, I've got all of the blade I could possibly want. Like, this is as big as most kitchen knife blades. I know there are larger ones for sure, but the reach on this allows you to do any kind of food prep you could possibly think about. And the blade grind and the overall width is completely appropriate for that as well. All right. Before we leave from this blade, I think the other thing I have to say is about this flat grind and the overall thickness and design. They've done a really, really good job of getting a blade here that is very confidence inspiring. Doesn't matter what kind of work you need to do, this will absolutely do the trick, and you can do it with a high degree of confidence because of the really nice balance that this blade strikes. So let's move from the blade and go over to the handle here. Handle is fairly typical cold steel construction. We've seen it lots of times. Throw in a couple of other examples. So these are all built very similarly. G10, 8010. Wow. Sorry, G10 on all of these, triad lock on all of these, and a minimal amount of metal involved, which makes them a little bit lighter and easier to carry, but still very, very capable, which is a huge win. In terms of construction, I don't think anybody out there is doing anything more confidence inspiring, stronger, more capable than what cold steel is doing. The ergonomics on this are excellent, especially I find I'm almost always using it in sort of the forward position. I never have much reason to be back here on the handle, although it's comfortable in both positions. The other thing I have to say is the texture on this is really, really good. So from an ergonomic standpoint, I like it. From a construction standpoint, I like it. Then finally, from a carry standpoint, what is perhaps the most surprising thing about this is when you fold it, it fits in most of my pockets and only a little bit is exposed, right? Just up here. So it's not like everyone can be like, oh man, look at the size of the giant knife that idiot's carrying. It's pretty comfortable and carryable in most pants, which is really, really nice. So we've covered on most of the main features. Again, this is an older design. I think most of you are familiar with this. So I wanted to make this video just a little quicker and shorter. I do want to throw in some comparisons here. So one obvious one that I've sung the praises of many, many times is the Cold Steel Recon 1. Is this, quite as capable of this in certain outdoor or defensive or food prep applications? Not quite, but it is so close, and yet it's quite a bit smaller that I would, if I was forced to pick between one of these, I would probably lean toward the Recon 1. If you have one and you want something a little different, a little bit interesting, I think the Talwar might be a good option. The other obvious comparison, perhaps more obvious, and there are some by the way, Cold Steel has the Voyager, and they have the Raja, and they have the Espada, all in this very large size. So they're those direct competitors as well from Cold Steel that you might want to be looking at. For me, the other knife to think about is the Formax or the Formax Scout, if you don't want to drop the funds on what a original version cost. All right. Both of these knives, the Recon 1, I don't have enough room on the screen here, guys, so I'm going to take lose a little bit of frame here. That's okay. If I had to get rid of these and only keep one, I would not keep the Talwar. I like the Talwar. I find it very enjoyable, but these are just a little more practical, and I find for my day-to-day uses, I can get what I need done with these. And if I need that extra outdoors tool, I have those tools. So from a practical, folding knife perspective, these are going to be, favorites more so than this one. However, I do want to point out that this can actually do comfortably and fairly conveniently all of the stuff that the Recon 1 and the Formax, and even to a lesser extent the Lawman, can do. So just wanted to touch on those comparisons briefly. Finally, what are my overall thoughts on this? It's definitely more of an enthusiast knife. It's big. It's rather aggressive looking. It's definitely kind of cool. It could be a little bit off-putting to certain people, no question about that. So be aware if you're going to be using this in public. It may not be, everybody's cup of tea. This is a great knife to pair with something else that's a little smaller, or maybe your QDDC fixed blade or something like that. But that said, I think this is a good knife, and a number of these cold steel knives could fit these many of the things I'm saying here. But useful blade shape, very useful. Lots of utilitarian purposes for this, as well as the fairly obvious purpose of being a defensive option if that's needed. And it would be crazy to think that it would ever be needed. And my prayer, of course, for everyone is that it never is. But there's that option as well. So there you go, guys. Thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to check out White Mountain Knives. You can use my discount code SHARPSTUFF and you will save 10% off over there. We will talk to you soon.